Greetings and welcome to another broadcast of Rise to Prosperity, a show of education, motivation, and inspiration through communication. You may follow us on Facebook page Rise to Prosperity, listen to a live stream of the show at riseradiootr.com, or join in the conversation by dialing 404-910-3151. And now, your co-hosts, Minister Jamie and Lady Antoinette Eatman.
Greetings, peace, and blessings be unto everyone. Welcome to this broadcast of Rise to Prosperity. We are glad that you've decided to spend your Wednesday evening here with us, and we're going to be with you until around 10 o'clock this evening. I want to welcome my husband and co-host, Minister Jamie Eatman. Peace and blessings be unto you.
And unto you as well.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to go ahead and set the atmosphere for the show, and then I will give you more instructions. Minister, will you set the atmosphere for us?
Yes, let us pray. Most Holy Father, we most humbly come before you, giving you honor, giving you glory, and giving you praise. And Father, we thank you for this is the day that you have made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it. And Father, I just thank you for what you're doing in this hour. I thank you for the knowledge that's going forth. And I pray that you will give your people more wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and revelation as it pertains to your word. And Father, I bind up the activity of the enemy who would go forward only to confuse those who would stand at the gate and not enter in, but would hinder others from doing so. So I just pray that something's going to be said or done here that's going to be an encouragement to someone, and that as they go forward, they might go forward and let their light shine, rising to the occasions that they too might make a difference in someone's life, in their circumstances, in their situations. We give you honor, glory, and praise. It's in the spirit of Christ we pray. Amen, amen, and amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for it. Now, I'm going to do a brief overview from last week. Tonight, this evening, we have part 2. And on last week, we told everybody, okay, we know there's going to be a part 2. So the narratives and truth. And I want to make sure I'm getting this right. Okay, narratives and truth. Okay, what we want you to do is invite your friends. Go into your Facebook, copy or share this, and share it with everyone on your feed, your friends, family. Let them know that Rise to Prosperity is on the air. You can also invite them to join you in our conversation room. If you're in the conversation room, first of all, you can speak to us, let us know you're there and you're going to be participating with us or throughout the show. And as we go through the questions on the show, you can answer them as well. And we'll put your answer, or we may have a discussion about your answer we'll put it on the screen, and possibly the panelists will have a discussion about it. So go ahead and invite your friends and family. And I'm going to do a brief overview from last week, which is really going to be brief. On last week was our first show, and our compare and contrast was between wealth and prosperity. So the panelists, all of them answered, and some people in our conversation room, some participants, they answered as well. Also, one of our viewpoints was, does your acceptance of a narrative, does it change based on the truth or a lie? Well, to find out how our panelists and some of our guests in the conversation room answered, you will have to go and look at the video. You can find those videos at the number 2, Prosperity, all written together on Facebook and on YouTube. You can also go to Rise Radio, OTR.com, and there is a location on there where you can look at the video and view previous videos as well. Also, keep that website in mind, riseradiootr.com, because any day of the week you can go on and hear gospel music, and it's music that educates, motivates, and inspires our listeners. So keep that website and pull it up on your phone at any time and just hear the music that is playing. That was my brief overview, and I'm going to turn it over to my husband and co-host, Minister Jamie.
All right. Greetings, everyone. Peace and blessings. I am Minister Jamie, and I am indeed on the rise, just as you are. At least you will be for the next approximately hour and 55 to 2 hour time frame. Thank you for that overview of last week's program. And as we get into today's program, you sort of looked at your instructions. You said you wanted to make sure. So sometimes we've had several programs concerning truth, and there's another program on Friday, which the word narrative is used a lot. So I could see why you would do that. But today's program is Narratives and Truths, Part 2. What were your thoughts when you, I'm sure you knew we were going to have it, but reflecting back on last week's program and the thought of another Part 2, what were you thinking?
Well, you know what? Last week was very good. So I knew that, okay, we're going to have a part 2. And, I can kind of tell as we get along, because I have a habit of watching the clock. And not because I want everything to hurry up, but because there are certain things that certain times I have to do and get done. So that's why I keep watching the clock to know when I need to do this, when I need to do that. But anyway, I just kind of figure I can kind of tell when we're going to have a part 2. And it was very informative, narratives and truth. Finding out that your narrative or a person's narrative does not have to be your truth. The truth is the truth. And we have to not allow other people to make sure that the narrative they tell about us is the truth. That's kind of like this quote I used to say, and I don't know who wrote this quote, but I would say it all the time. Don't let anyone's opinion of you become your reality. So, if somebody's narrative about you is not quite, if you don't like it, and according to them, they're telling the truth, then you may want to check yourself or kind of look at what they're saying and why they're saying it. Is it something they're saying that you're not? But then you also have to make sure that, what I want them to say about me, this is the life I am. This is what I am. This is the life I live. So we do want our narrative to be truthful. So, it was very nice. I enjoyed it, and I'm quite sure I'm going to enjoy it again.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. I'm looking forward to the program tonight because I always find that, it's like if you have a conversation, next time you talk, you have to talk about something a little different or a little deeper. So I'm trusting that it will be deeper. So as we move forward, let's see what is unveiled, what comes at a later time, and it'll probably be more of you than those who are watching right now. But I pray something's going to be said that'll be beneficial to you. And by all means, please leave your comments in the room. I normally try to go back and like to show people that I am reading them. And every now and then when I get something fresh or something new, it is insightful. So I encourage you all, please do just share your comments with us. All right, Lady Antoinette, if you
Mhm.
are ready, then I am.
All right. Let's see. Our
We're
first
going to
question.
start the program off with our first question, which is, what was your Emmy instance for last week's program? Narrative and truths. And the thing with that, I want you all to catch this. You know, we do an Emmy moment at the end of the program.
Hmm.
An Emmy instance is anything that you're presented with, or that somehow you walk away with, something that was educational, motivational, inspirational. You often hear me use the phrase, in the present, we rise to the occasion. But even after we have risen and studied and thought about, or whatever, those things behind us. So, Lady Antoinette, I know you did a complete review, but out of last week's program, was there any particular instance for you?
Hmm. Yes, I think when we were talking about the uh, what I discussed about does the narrative based on the narrative, does it change your truth, or I think that or the lie? I have to look back at that to see how that question went. Uh, does your acceptance of a narrative, okay, that was it. Does your acceptance of a narrative change based on the truth or lie? I think everybody weighed in on that. And, um, I thought that was very insightful. Also, when we discuss wealth and prosperity, it, and we kind of look at them as being the same, but you can prosper without being wealthy. If we're looking at it, well, you can look at it a couple of ways. You can look at it spiritually, and you can look at it in the natural. So I think last week we looked at it all ways. So that was interesting as well.
Okay. All right. And it is always a good thing, and kind of remembering the programs, because they kind of help prep us for the next program. But as I reflected on the program, the program is actually all encompassing, as Lady Antoinette alluded to. There's some questions that are asked, there's some answers that are given, there's some thoughts you're thinking when you give your answer, there's some thoughts you're thinking as you get other people answers. But here lately, one of my most Emmy instances on each program here lately has been the conversation room.
Hmm.
There's some interesting things that are going on in the conversation room. If you've heard me
Hmm.
before, when I've said there are some things that are coming, and those things are doing just that. They're coming. I spoke with Brother Bennett about kind of some of the things that we're seeing,
Hmm.
and it's interesting how they're going to be there. They're going to test us. They're going to test our gut. They're going to
Hmm.
test our character. They're going to test what we're standing upon. And that test is really just they're testing, or they're helping to write our narrative. And
Hmm.
many of us don't realize it, but that narrative is something that, when you encounter someone and you're having a bad day and something took place, there's a narrative that results from that little instance that took place.
Hmm.
Historically, there are some narratives that have taken place in our families. There are some narratives that are being told, and some of them we have a chance to change, some of them we may not want to be aware or conscious of, and others we may not even be conscious of. But in life, as we move forward and we realize that our narrative isn't just solely our narrative, because there's always that. Remember that people would say, when you're pointing, there's four fingers that's pointing back at you.
Hmm.
There's the tendency to tell our story, and our being all of us. So when we tell our stories tend to differ. But the narrative is that thing that we're going forward and we're saying. Some of our narratives we'll lie in a heartbeat. Others will go and carry a life forward because that's what somebody gave us.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to realize that narratives are very important, and we play a key role in that narrative as to what goes forward, what is said, and in a lot of cases, what is done in our settings and in our lives. So as I thought about my Emmy instances, it is really the entire program as I look at it from the seat of position that I see it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What's that? What's going on?
Well, if you said okay, you've gone, I've gone.
Uh, okay.
Okay. Okay, the second question is, what are some things that influence your perception? And that word came up, I don't know if it was on this program or not, but perception. I think it was here. Perception, perspective. We use a lot of words that pertain to the narrative. So the question here is, what are some things that influence your perception of a narrative? If somebody is speaking or narrating or giving their narrative of something, um, you're listening.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that would influence your perception of that?
Well, I think that I really don't know because it depends on, I guess, what's being said and who it's being said by. If it's someone I didn't know, I would take, I mean, my perception of their narrative, I would have to just take at face value because I don't know them. Someone that I'm familiar with, if it was true, then I would, the narrative would be, so I guess truth would be something that would influence my perception.
Hmm.
Um, and also, if it was a lie, it would influence my perception. So,
Hmm.
yeah, those were are two things
Okay.
that would influence it.
Okay. And you notice how you said if it was true, and then you came back and said, well, if it was a lie, which is actually the same thing, because if a person is not telling the truth, then they
Mhm,
are lying.
mhm,
So the fact, like you said, the truth of the matter, people have made that statement, the truth of the matter, and you hear it being used in conversation, but it's really a weighty thing. When it comes down for me, the things that might influence my perception of the narrative is I try to listen very attentively when I'm listening to someone.
mhm,
And one of the things that is impacts my narrative or my perception of the narrative, you used to hear these words that your conversation, there's your words should there should be some congruency in what you're saying. There should be some consistency in what you're saying.
mhm,
So even if that person is a good person that tells a lie, I can't even look at the truth of the lie until, because if it's scattered all over the place, I don't know what to make of it. So one of the things that impact my perception of the narrative is the speaker, the delivery. We had a
mhm,
conversation, if you remember, a program that was about communication. It was about communication noise and the different type personalities and things that affect communication. Well, all those issues come into play. So when I'm looking at a person and someone is telling me about a person, if someone is telling me something and is all emotional for them, that again is going to influence how I might view that narrative, because I know that it's mixed with some emotions. Might even say tainted, depending on how you want to look at it. So that becomes very important as well.
mhm,
Um, there's just a lot of character, when we look at life and character, it plays a key role, the content of a person's character. And I'm one of those individuals, even if a person, if I've known them to lie, I'm still listening. I'm always listening for the truth, you might say, because I know that a person who habitually might do something, there comes a point where something may be of value enough to them that they might do something differently. And if we're not paying attention, we could easily miss that. So
Mhm.
that's one of the things that I would say that greatly influences my perception of a narrative. It's the character of the individual.
Mm. Mhm. Okay. Character. All
And
right.
the Apostle Crystal Harris just she says, "Good evening."
Mhm. Good evening, greetings, peace, and blessings, Sister Apostle Crystal.
But before we go on, Lady Antoinette, I want to take up a little time here. When
Mhm.
it comes to the let's just say the I won't say the world, because the world is much larger than the country that we live in. When you look at historically a lot of the narratives that are out there, um, what are your thoughts concerning education? Because we say we're about educating, motivating, and inspiring individuals to rise above life situations and circumstances.
Mhm.
So if we live in a country where we have an education system which they were talking about doing away with a defunding, um, how significant or insignificant is that system and what you know about it?
How significant or insignificant insignificant is the education system? That's what you're asking, right?
Right. And I'm specifically stating as it pertains to the country.
Well,
That
I
would
think,
in, that would include your Black history, your critical subjects, and so forth that reveal the narrative and so forth.
well, I think education is it's good no matter. I mean, just learning new things. Um, that I just like to learn new things, and our an education system is needed. Now, to those who want to cover up, you know, everything can be used in a good way and in a bad way. So, if we're talking about an education system that is put in place to teach our younger children as they're coming up, to make them knowledgeable of what went on in the past, what's going on now, and have them looking toward the future, then they're going to need to know what happened in the past, what's going on now. And so that they can have something to look forward to the future about. And so, no, I don't think it's insignificant. We do need an education system. And I think we need people in that to oversee that system that will demand that, because you have students now who are almost as smart as the teachers. I mean, they look up everything online. They look at documentaries online. They know more, and they're asking questions. And then you find teachers who are afraid to answer the questions. So things like that, it's I think that's detrimental to our society. Um, I mean, it's just it's a whole different world from how you and I grew up. And so I think it's significant, but I think someone needs to be over it who's not afraid to correct the narratives and then put it out there. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying, we apologize, we were wrong. This is not how this is supposed to go. This is not what happened. This is really what happened. instead of being embarrassed or thinking it's too um it's too tough or shameful for certain students. If it happened, it happened. There has been something in every culture, I think, that has happened. And yes, it happened. Yes, the situation was a bad situation, but then we learned from it as well. So we won't go back and repeat that again. So I think it is definitely needed.
Okay, Apostle Harris left a comment. You want to read it and share what your thoughts?
Okay. She says, I think it needs to be revised. Yeah, that's true. It is needed. But we just need people, like she said, it needs to be revised. We need to have people in place who are not afraid to correct the narratives.
Okay. Well, I like your answer. It sounded kind of general, which is where most of us look at education. And I say that because if we really kind of look at what's going on around us, it's deeper than most people will see. It's not as superficial, like you said. In one instance, you're saying it's good to have if
Mhm.
it's correct, but the reality becomes if something has not been taught correctly, and you as a parent was taught something that wasn't correct, and as you stated, a child can go and look in his phone, which is a terrible thing because looking in a phone does not make what they find to be correct. Someone
Mhm.
could actually find this program and reference it in a conversation with their parents. Doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean that we are right or wrong, but there are some things that are very significant when it comes to education because, one, until this country, and I say black and white and everyone else in it in reality comes to some realizations, there's going to always be some biases. There's going to always be some prejudices. The only way you're going to be able to eliminate those things is that you shed light on some of the problems, and that would then reveal the lie, or as I would often say, by searching for the naked truth of the matter, you
Mhm.
can then expose some lies. If you think about the concept of hot or cold, everything in the middle, whether we want to call it a little white lie, a little ignorant lie, or any other lie, is still a lie by any name.
Mhm.
And because it is a lie, and we have that lie, and we go forward with that lie, we live a lie. When we think about some of the things that are going on in the world, I am really, I mean, I want you to think about this for a moment. They say that we here in the United States, as people of color, black people, that we make more money than some of the countries do. Other
Mhm.
countries do. And if we're making more money than those other countries are making, and we're still here with the same complaints that we've had, a portion of that has to do with either the fact that we like it the way it is. I don't think that's really the case. We have not really assessed the situation for what it is, which I think is part of the case, or the information is missing so that no assessment occurs, or that people who are in a position to make those type of assessments, for some reason, many do not.
Mhm.
And it may be a little bit of all of that. But the bottom line comes down to going back to what I was making reference to. I think I touched on the end of last week's program with some facts financially. When you look at where uh, people of color are, black people, uh, that's a very interesting topic, not only from the perspective of people other than black, but among blacks. As Brother Brown comes in and shares what he is learning now, you have some people that, they will present something based on where they go back, how
Mhm.
far they can go back. Some will stop at Africa, some will go back farther, and some go back so far as they deal with the origin One of the things people can't argue with usually is something where there's the origin of something.
Mhm.
But if you go back and you get something from this time period, those are crazy things to be trying to argue with, because who was there, or who has put in the study to even have an informed opinion one way or another. But those are the type things there that we have to live with, we have to deal with, and that are going to hinder us from moving forwards, and even in some cases backwards, because there's some people that get some information that they're not going backwards. And in order for you to go backwards, you got to walk over them. And that's not going to happen in most cases. So people are, in a sense, pushed forward, whether they
Mhm.
are willingly going forward or not. So there's a whole lot of things that are going on as it pertains to education. I like what the apostle said about it needs to be revised. It
Mhm.
does, because there's so many lies out there. One of the things that I learned when I was doing my course, it was that the people, there's a saying, the person that is in power does indeed write the history. So because our topic is on the narrative, those who are in power write the narrative. So if
Mhm.
those who are in power write the narrative, what do you think happens years later when someone don't know that there was even a question of the narrative? They'll defend that with their life.
Mhm.
And that's a lot of what we're seeing today. So when it comes down to education, it isn't just about having teachers to teach, and it's about more what they're teaching. It's about the intent and the knowledge of what it is that they're teaching. When I don't know if we have another question, so I'm going to bring this out. This perception of the narrative piece is very important, because most people don't think deep until they are fronted with the depth of something. Can you imagine, every day you look at a well, and today we don't need a bucket to draw water. We just go cut on the faucet. But let's say
Mhm.
the water in the house goes out, and
Mhm.
someone goes, and for the first time in their life, now they're at a well, they're dropping a bucket in the well, and they don't know what to do next. They're standing there holding the rope, and the bucket hadn't even got near the bottom yet, because they don't
Mhm.
understand the process. And that's the way knowledge is. We can't draw any deeper than we are familiar with. If we don't know how to draw at the well, we'll never discover the depth of that that's at the well. And I'm saying that to say this. Send Apostle Harris the link, Tony.
Okay.
And I'm saying that to say this: when we think about history and some of the things that have occurred, people will dismiss your conversation. They will talk louder than you. You will be the voice that no one really wants to hear, because you're bringing something that's going to disrupt the atmosphere. You know how that song says, this change in the atmosphere. Truth does that as well, but most
Mhm.
people don't want that change. So oftentimes truth goes unaddressed, and when truth goes unaddressed, it's only a matter of time, because before the absence of truth becomes the validity of the lie. And when
Right.
you get to that point there, a person, as it says, I think the Bible says that there'll come a day when people will literally kill you and think they're doing God with favor. And spiritually, and I said literally, but I mean literally and spiritually, because
Mhm.
when you think about the concept of them picking up their stones to stone Jesus, most of us, we in our little religious mindset, we don't realize it, but if we're that comfortable and nobody is uncomfortable with us, we may not be as deep or in the place that we think we are, because there's some revelation that when it comes down to our faith, the word, and
Mhm.
who God is, it makes some people uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And
Amen.
as we move forward, those narratives are going to be addressed. They're going to be attacked. That people are going to undress some things, and until it's undressed, that's when you have a chance to expose the naked truth. The only way to really win over someone that has the mindset that they're correct is with truth. Until you can dispel, until you can dismiss, until you can disqualify what
Mm,
they are calling truth, that's going to be their truth. It only
yes.
becomes a lie in the presence of truth. And that becomes very important. But
Hmm.
education, as we know it, is very important, because now truth crushed the earth. In other words, we've walked all over it, but
Hmm.
now it's rising up. And because
Yes.
it's rising up now, it has to be acknowledged. Okay. I just
Yeah.
wanted to throw that in there about education, because as we say, educating, motivating, and inspiring, people may think that is a minor thing, but it's not. If a person
Hmm.
won't stand for something, they'll fall for anything. And if a man hadn't found something for which he's willing to die, he isn't fit to live. I've written those statements together like that because that's the way I think. So when it comes down to my standing for something, I have so much in my mind that reminds me that if I don't stand, I might as well be dead.
Hmm.
And when I look at the fact of life spiritually as well as physically, there are a lot of things walking that are already dead.
Hmm.
Welcome, Apostle. Peace and blessings. How are you?
Greetings.
All
Well,
right. I'm trying to. This thing ain't working right.
Well, you're sounding good. You're looking
yeah.
good. I don't know what piece ain't working, but it looks
Well,
good.
I can't see anything. That's what I'm saying. I got all this stuff sitting in front of me, but it's
Oh,
Oh,
not
okay.
it's not coming. I can't
Okay.
see.
You'll get it. Just work at it. Let me know when you're ready. Okay. But Lady Antoinette, as far
mhm.
as while I'm waiting on the apostle, I'll just go ahead and share this. When I was doing my study, I learned that the critical subjects and people that have studied these particular subjects, they have concluded that if people are going to be great citizens in life and so forth, that
Mhm.
they are going to have to learn how to live with the past.
Mhm.
But if people aren't teaching the past, they're not being taught the past, then they can't live with that which they haven't. And the
Mm.
problem that's occurring now is that we're getting teachers who are being put in a position where they are supposed to be teaching these same subjects, but because they did not know, now that they are doing a scholarly study, they are learning the lies that they were told. And because of their values and their senses all coming into play now, it is presenting a problem for them.
Mhm.
So they are having difficulties with these particular topics. If you can imagine people that have been in the military, and they say those individuals have, what is it, post traumatic stress syndrome or whatever it is,
Mhm. Mhm.
PTSD.
Mhm.
Well, imagine teachers actually ending up with that because they were attempting to teach history, but that they didn't know is that traumatic for them. I mean, you kind of smile, but in reality, if you really think about that, that's what's happening now. As I watch brothers that feel that they got all the knowledge now because they've learned a little bit, just enough to be dangerous, and they are like ready to start a war. They're ready to start a riot. They everything, they forgot about life is worth living. Errors are worth correcting. Knowledge is to be shared. So, but that's the same way those teachers are, but just on a different level.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it isn't just the teachers, it's those people as well. It's us who have to somewhat listen to that, validate it, and at the same time address it. I was speaking with someone today, and I told the person that I wasn't going to respond to them because I wouldn't want them to think I was defending what they were saying.
Mhm.
You know how the Bible says, "So catch not your pearls before swines."
Right.
When individuals perceive you to be defending something, they don't look at you as speaking from a place of authority or a place of power. They perceive a weakness in that you're defending yourself against that.
Mhm.
So I didn't at that time, but it's something that I will address later. But I'm mentioning all of this because when we talk about the narrative, it isn't just about what has happened. It's really about what is happening. And what has happening affects or influence our perception of the narrative today. And based on our perception today, that's what we're going to go forward with.
Exactly.
And that's why today, if you look at it in our community, there's so many things that need addressing, but
Hmm.
it's so many perspectives. We perceive it in different manners. And when we attempt to address it one way, someone from another perspective, it may not be the time in their eyes to address it.
Hmm.
But the time has come to where we need to be about our Father's business.
Yes, amen.
Okay, let me see if the apostle's ready. Okay. I see her in the room, but we got a black spot on the screen.
Hmm.
I think that maybe she's gonna have to come back in. Okay, but anyway, I just wanted to share all of that because education is an important thing, particularly in this day and this hour.
Hmm.
Okay,
Right.
go ahead. I'm hoping that there's something in my spirit, but I'm not gonna share it. Hopefully, there'll be another question that's gonna bring it out. Go ahead.
Okay.
Compare and contrast truth and trust.
Hmm. Well, I know what truth is, and I know what trust is. Um, and I feel uh, I feel that they can go hand in hand. When you know that someone is truthful and telling you the truth, you can trust that person knowing that they will tell you the truth.
Hmm.
Um, but it does work the other way as well. If you know a person is a liar, you can trust that they are going to lie about something. So, um, trust is, I think, trust is something you gain through interactions. Um, and I know some people say, well, you trust God, you don't interact with God. Yes, we do interact with God. Um, and that's a part that trust is commonly known as faith, trusting in Him, having faith in Him, that He will do the things He said He will do. So I just compare them. They're I just I decide to just compare them.
Okay. When I look at those two words, I think they are so closely aligned
Hmm.
that they are deceiving.
Mm.
Because as you stated, if a person is known for truth, then those are the ones that you will trust.
Hmm.
So if a person's known for truth and there's a situation that occurs and that person um that's the last person that you would suspect, right?
Hmm.
Because you trust that person. But think about in life how often the person that's guilty is the last person that you would have thought would have
Yeah.
done it.
Hmm.
because there's a saying that character is not measured in time of comfort, but in time of adversity. So if a person is secretary for years and they never had any crisis, if they're faced with a crisis, they might have done something that they never got caught at, but did it a little bit differently because they had to do it. But you trusted them all along.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know the truth because you trusted.
Right.
When we look at our children today, how many times have you, as a parent, had to deal with a teacher or someone pertaining to your child, and when you went there, in your mind, you didn't even think about a bias or a prejudice, but you went there with a bias or prejudice in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And think about the number of parents that do that. Think about the number of times that people will defend their children based on the fact that this is my child. They will defend their the people in their life and in their space because they're in their life and in their space. But in reality, um, truth can get lost in that,
Mm-hmm.
and so can trust. So I look at those two as being entirely different, because if a person trusts you, you could be telling the truth and someone not believe you because they trust someone else. So
Mm-hmm.
truth and trust then becomes on opposite sides of the fence.
Right. Right.
So we want to make sure that we know the difference between those two. If a
Mm-hmm.
person is lying, how many times have you heard people say, "And I trusted him," and I trusted you,
Mm-hmm.
when they learned that the person was lying,
Yeah, right.
or they took them to be telling the truth because of the relationship with them. When we think about that formula, I plus R equals O, identity plus relationship equals outcome,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes very important, because if we're not operating in truth, we could end up with a trusted relationship that the outcome is just waiting to happen. And
Right.
you can't prevent it anyway because that's in the future. But we still have to be able to look objectively at the things going on around us. Greetings, Apostle. Are you ready now? Unmute, unmute yourself.
Yep,
Okay. So how are you?
I'm well.
You
Okay.
well? You know, because I know y'all don't like this word. Are you sure? You sure you're not lying to me, Apostle? One thing I can tell about when people give you that pause like that, I'm well, or I'm okay. It's like you can, that's that flag goes up. Can I trust that? But I know if that was something you needed to talk about or share, you would. So other than that pause, how's everything going today?
It's been going.
It's been going. Well, the
Yep,
day.
I've been going all day.
Oh, okay. You got a lot accomplished.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, at least you rose to the occasion, right? There you go. Only by rising to the occasion can you even be in a position to rise above the circumstances and situations.
Yeah.
So you've
Yep.
done good so far. Well, you've been listening now. Anything you want to add to, or any particular question you would like for us to go back to?
No, it's been good.
Oh, okay. Well, we're on quick thought.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this thing. It's going in and out.
Well, you think that's something? We have two of you. I have two of you on my screen.
I have two of you on mine too.
But you're good. The other one, I don't know how it's lingering or why, but it's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's probably why I'm getting the echo.
Well, we don't hear it, so you good. I don't hear it anyway.
Neither do I.
Okay. All is well.
Okay.
And I would probably contrast truth and trust.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Because
go ahead.
I trust. I can't trust everybody, but I can trust the truth.
Right.
So I have to contrast them.
Mm.
Okay. I like that. That makes sense. And it's right. You can't trust everybody because not everybody's going to tell you the truth. And the interesting thing is, a person that tells you the truth today may not necessarily tell you the truth tomorrow. What was Peter told?
Yep.
And
But
remember when the question was asked, "Whom do ye say that I am?" And flesh and blood had not revealed it unto thee. Look at that relationship there. That relationship with God.
Mm.
hmm
Identity plus relationship equals outcome. And look at what happened later. You
yeah,
got to
but it doesn't have to be another day. It
be.
could be
Yeah.
things change in a moment.
Yes,
You
they do.
re- remember we used to say, here today and gone tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's here today and gone today.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, you got a point. You have a point there.
Yeah.
All right. Any additional comments on this, Lady Antoinette? Anything that we went over that you might want to catch the apostle up to speed on? Because I know that you were listening, right, Apostle? You put in the room that you were listening.
Mm-hmm.
And anything we've said that you wanted to comment on?
Not at this time.
Okay, then if it
Okay.
comes back to you, just let us know.
All right.
All right. Okay, number 4 says, okay, now this is a discussion question. Black buying power was estimated at 1.6 trillion as of 2024. The projection suggesting it could reach 1.8 trillion by the end of the year. Now, this is a year, an annual amount of funds. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a lot of money.
It's the money is one thing, but where are you spending it? Where are you investing it? What are
Hmm.
you doing with the money?
Mm-hmm.
If we have this much money, where is it going? And it doesn't go to our community. It doesn't even go in our neighborhood. We allow it to go through our hands. It's like holes in your pocket.
Hmm.
Uh, it goes everywhere but where it's supposed to go. It doesn't even go to the church. Some goes to the church, but there are a lot of black people that don't tithe and don't give offerings and don't go to church.
You know, is that I know that this is a strange question, but the way that things are going and the truth be told, is the church doing what it is supposed to be doing?
No.
So,
Somebody you had something on the other week saying that the church is not doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
The church is piling up their own money. If the church was doing what they would be doing, there wouldn't be so many millionaires in the church talking about the leadership. The leadership keeps on growing, and going higher and living in mansions, and the members don't even have enough money for food.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Right.
You're not taking care of the widows. You're not taking care of the homeless, the children, or anything else,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no community. So it's an individual thing, and you're feeding yourself.
Right. Now, I like what you said, Apostle, because I said this last week. I think you and I have seen some of the same videos. When you say that we don't have a community, put that in perspective, because most people, they don't know the depth of that statement. Can you shed some light on it?
First, you have to go to the definition of what is a community
Right.
and break it down. A community is what Tulsa was. And I can name a few other communities. Community has the grocery store, the doctors. Back in the day, it was the shoemaker. Whatever you needed was in that community.
Mm-hmm.
The church was in the community. The church was the community. Because everybody surrounded the church. Everybody came to the church for whatever their needs were. Families, but families were more of community. Back in the day,
Yes, ma'am.
you had your family. That's why I said I have 5 generations. I knew when I was born to 5 generations. But not only 5 generations, I was born with 5 grandparents from different families. So I had great grandparents, I had grandparents. So I had 4 sets. You have 2 sets. My mother's set, my father's set. My mother and father, my mother's grandparents, and her grandparents on both sides of her family.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody came together. That's what they used to say. It takes a village to raise a child. We don't have any villages. We have individuals that don't even want you to speak to their children, let alone correct them when you know that they're wrong. I mean, we used to get spankings. If the neighbor had to spank us, we was definitely going to get a spanking when we got home.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
If
I
they
was
had
laugh-
to say something to us, we were going to get a spanking when we got home.
Amen.
Yep.
And then
That-
we were always sent to somebody else's house, maybe on the weekend or on this time, or there was always relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you build a community, with relationship. I'm going to go over here. This person is the dressmaker. They're going to make the clothes. They do the sewing. You need to go over there if you need alterations or whatever you need. Okay, how many black people do you know that are sewing and doing alterations? You're going over there to the other. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
name any nationality, but that's where you go to get your clothes
Right.
altered, fixed. You know, I know a few black seamsters, but I'm just saying it's not community.
right.
So don't let me
Right.
keep
And
talking. You all say something.
no, I wanted you to define that because I knew that if a person has been exposed to, that's something about knowledge. When you have gotten it and it's true, I don't care how a person repeat it, it's going to pretty much sound the same. I want to take a moment to welcome my sister Tracy Eatman. Tracy
Mm-hmm.
came in. She said, "Peace and blessings, fam." And when you were talking, Apostle, she said, "Amen, amen, amen." Because
Mm,
we grew up down there in Utah, and that's the way it was.
amen.
And even when we moved to Tuscaloosa, which was a little different, our neighbors were just like our parents. So if they knew, my mother knew. I had a brother. I used to always wonder, how did my mother knew everything? Between the spies that she had in the form of my brother and the neighbors who didn't hesitate to tell everything, you didn't get
Mm,
away with nothing in the day. Everything was pretty much made known. But I was going to say, Apostle, you're right on point when you said that about the neighborhoods, because the things that with that money issue that I touched on, the money is there. But if we're not doing anything with it, the guy that I was listening to, he used the term aggregation, aggregate. I had seen this guy like 3 or 4 times before I finally realized who he was. There's a guy that wrote a book called, it's Black something, Black Economics, but it was really popular. I didn't get a copy of it, but he's the one that I have been posting. I didn't realize that's who he was, but I heard him and someone was interviewing, and I realized that he knew exactly what he was talking about. But it goes back to exactly like you said, those four things. And it's ironic because with him being an elder, Dr. Umar, who is a younger individual, Minister Farrakhan, who is an elder, you find people like Candace Owens, myself, you, when we're looking at things from an enlightened perspective, we desire and long for that thing that isn't there, that most people haven't even realized is absent. So the work and the challenge becomes rising to the occasion to help bring that back into being. And that's where we are today. We're trying to bring back something that most people haven't even missed yet. Lady Antoinette, if you will share this.
okay. That's greetings, Brother Edgar Eason. And I want to say also greetings to my sister in love, Tracy. Brother Eason writes, our problem is not the message per se. Our problem is expecting the message from a particular messenger. I have no problem with the truth. I just want to hear it from you. Oh, I just don't want to hear it from you. Credibility or lack thereof is the deciding factor concerning acceptance of the truth. Today, the truth is compromised for acceptance. People believe who they choose to believe, regardless of the truth.
Right, right. Now, I love what Edgar just
Amen.
did, because I think it was him or Brown in the past. They said it wasn't about believing. So
Mhm.
this right here sheds light on that statement, because what you believe isn't necessarily the truth. Belief really doesn't count for much if you look at it in this light. I
Mhm.
love the way that's well put, my brother, and welcome. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. And
Amen.
that is so true. And that's why our topic today is about the narrative. And when you look at the narrative, and we ask the question, what are some of the things that influence the narrative? That's along the lines of what you were saying, Lady Antoinette, about how well you know the person. Do you
Mhm.
trust them? So when
Mhm.
people get to the point where they know and trust each other, they tend to want to say the same things, believe the same things, and do the same things. And depending on who is the most vocal in that group, that might be nothing. That might be the wrong thing. They might be oppositional. They might be going left when they should be going right. But in
Mhm.
any case, that's a good analysis of us as a people. Not saying that none of us are going the right way, but I want to point something out. There are people in our community, their word is I. That's their favorite pronoun.
Mhm.
And there are others who they will say you, which is no different than I, because they've yet to come to the point where there's a collective. When we get to the point where it's we and us, then we can start to do something. We can start to move together. Otherwise, that trillions of dollars that we make annually, it's never going to benefit us until we decide that we want to do something purposeful, until we decide we want to move in a direction where we are wanting to do something for us versus ourselves. You know, people have been bought out because people knew that if I give this one here the money, I don't have to worry about the rest. If I can get this one here in front of the others, he'll lead them where I want them to go. And as long as he's taken care of, they used
Mhm.
to have terms for that. You know, they would use terms like white man, nigger, field nigger. They had all sort of terms they used that would imply that this person here, he can't be trusted. Going back to trust and truth, there are a lot of things that traditionally we have had to deal with and not realizing, but there are certain mindsets that carry over into today.
Mhm.
So we have all of this going on, and as brother Edgar pointed out, and the fact that you may come with truth when people want a little bit of it, but not that much. Come on, brother, why don't you whatever, this ain't the time. They want what they want when they want it, which is
Mhm.
part of the problem as well. So we have to be aware of that. But this issue here with this money thing, and I asked Apostle that question because, and Lady Antoinette, but a lot of people don't know the thing that God is doing today. I said this before, and I'm not saying that I said it to get any credibility from it. I'm kind of letting people know where I am. That there was a wealth transfer that is occurring and is already underway. If you look at everything that's going on now, there's some things that people that are going to do some things that they think are going to empower them or going to work to what they're wanting to do, but it's going to do just the opposite. There's some people who have been sleep, Brother Edgar, that's about to wake up, and it's just a matter of continuously attempting to arouse them. There's a saying that no lie can live forever. Truth crushes
Mhm.
earth will rise again. And I, for one, firmly believe that. So this is that day, this is that hour. And I believe that. And because I believe that, it's a goal that I have purpose in my mind, in my heart to do, to go forward, rise to the occasion, and see if I can't help motivate, educate, and inspire our people to do the same thing. And I think
Mhm.
that's going to make a world of difference. But Lady Antoinette, you didn't answer that question, did you?
Yes.
You did address the funds. Did
Mhm.
Apostle?
Yes, she did.
Yes, she did. Okay.
Yeah.
And what I was gonna add to that is this: when you look at those funds, there's a couple of videos that I've watched that really causes me to think. If you remember, what's his name, Dr. Phil, Oprah's friend.
Mhm.
There was a guy that was speaking on reparations, and Dr. Field actually said to him, he said, nobody's going to give that much money to a people. It'll be gone in a month. And the guy came back as though Dr. Field was talking to him, which he probably was. He probably said it before he thought about it. But then he came back and said, well, I wouldn't give that to any people.
Mhm.
But when you think about that, the thought of you deciding what you're going to give somebody that they're owed, something is
Mhm.
wrong with that picture. That's that mindset for an individual that still has that, I wouldn't say slave, but in this case, that slave master mentality.
Mhm.
You're
Mhm.
gonna tell
Mm-hmm.
the slaves how they gonna live their lives. You're gonna
Yeah.
give them what you want them to have.
Mhm.
But when he
Mhm.
made that statement, it was kind of alarming for me. But there was very little said about it. Some of our most vocal individuals, it's like they didn't see that video. They didn't hear that statement. When we get to the point where Mala was running for office, she started off with sounding like she was for reparations, but then the statement went to, we gotta study that. And
Mm-hmm.
she must not know that one of Dr. King's my favorite statements of his is there's a paralysis in analysis. And you're gonna become president, and you're gonna tell us already that you're paralyzed to the point that you're still studying. But we as a people, and all the things that we put forward to trying to get Trump or her in office, there's still some things that need to be addressed. For example, reparation. Do we believe in it or not? Do we want it or not? And if we want it, why don't we act like we want it? And as long as we act like we don't want it, why would anybody give you something you act like you don't want?
Mm-hmm.
If they got 5 people to serve, and you sitting there all quiet, and somebody else is over here causing a disturbance, who you think they're going to attend to first? We've learned, we have lost the art of protest, organized or otherwise. And because we've lost the art of protest was done organized. So now whenever something happens, it appears to be something that's disorganized, and the person appears to be out of order. Because when they want to rise up and speak for everybody, when half the things that they want is really what they want, that presents a problem. But all this money here is just that, it's just money until we decide that we want to do something. We need to be able to make some sacrifice to make some things work. You know, if you want to move and you live one place and you want to move to another, your income doesn't necessarily have to change. Maybe you change some habits in the way you live your life. So that's important. Yes, Apostle.
Yes, we have to realize that the majority of the people, whether they be black or white, the majority of the people are under 50 years old. Even if you're under 70 years old, you don't even understand the fight. You try to empower your own children, but you can't even empower your own children, your grandchildren, or your great-grandchildren. They don't have any idea of what you're talking about. They can read it in a book. They still don't have any idea what we went through. They don't have, and I didn't per se go through it, but it was silent. A silent racism is just as bad as verbal racism. Racism is racism no matter who's being racist.
Right.
We can be just as racist as anybody else. But until you come to the knowledge, that's what it is. And the understanding of where we came from, where our parents, our grandparents are even further back than that. But see, that's where I learned all that through, what do you call that? I can't think of the thing that I do, but where you go back to the ancestry.
Yeah.
Okay. Ancestry.
And yeah, and you look up all that stuff, and you write down all that stuff. I had God spoke to me and told me that I needed to have a prayer journal. And as I was speaking to somebody else, they were telling me about another woman that had a prayer journal. She passed away, and when they went through her stuff, they saw all the prayers that she was praying and all the prayers that came through and all the different people generations back through this prayer journal. And I was like, the same thing is now with us. If we don't relay it to another generation, they won't know anything about anything. All they know about is a computer, a television, whatever that, the phone, all those different things that are technical, and they don't even know how to go outside and play. Go outside and play, and they look at you like you're crazy.
Yep.
All we had was go outside and play.
Yep. We had the football, the basketball, the girls doing jump rope, and what was that little thing you throw the little glass in front of you and jump?
I don't know, but we played jacks.
And we shot marbles. Yep. You know, it was so some things that to do, but now the toys are different, and because the toys are different, so is the focus. Lady Antoinette, if you read what Brother Brown shared.
All right. Greetings, Brother Brown. He says, greetings, friends. We have been taught so many lies from every institution. We must never stop our own research.
So true.
Hmm.
That is very valuable, and I like what my brother said. You know, when I was joined the army, one of my awakening moments,
Hmm.
I went and actually, to be honest with you, I had never even really heard enough about Dr. King to have an opinion one way or another. But when I started reading about him and Malcolm, and I started developing a hunger for Black history, it changed my whole mindset. It was something that in coming up, I didn't see anyone around me like that. I remember in elementary school, Mr. Hicks. Mr. Hicks, I will always remember this man. And I didn't understand his joke. He told me a joke. He said, if ever somebody asks you how many niggas in a dollar, you tell them the same number of how many niggas in a dollar. You tell them the same number of crackers in a box. I didn't get that to years later what he was talking about. But the fact that I can remember that he had that type wit about him lets me know that I was in the presence of a man who influenced my life. So I thank God for having met him, and that statement for resonating even today in my spirit, not as a prejudice thing, but as a form of motivation. When we become dissatisfied with some things, we'll start to aspire to be greater, to rise higher. And until we do that, we're going to be relegated to a place where we're having a conversation right now that for those who are overly religious,
Welcome
one
to the
second,
Rise to.
they they don't realize it, but this is biblical when it says about how our children will be, how mothers and daughters, the sons and the fathers, the two women and the men. There's a This was a thought I had today, Apostle, and you touched on a part of it when you were sharing earlier. The Bible speaks of the day when there's supposed to be the possibility of deceiving even the elect. And what occurred to me is we got people today will tell you these are the last days. Now, if these are the last days, and Christianity is supposed to be so significant, and half the world is Christianity, then if the Bible says that if it were possible, even the elect would be deceived, that lets you know there's
Hmm.
going to be an awful large amount of deception going on.
Hmm.
So when people want to hold on to religion and forget about the text that's in the Bible, it makes you wonder, could it be that the same battle that we have to fight today is to revive, as Ezekiel said, when the bones came to themselves and stood on their feet, there was no life in them? Could it be that we are that people that have been in that position, and now that the noise and everything else is coming, there's a bone coming to his bone, and they all going to come together, but they ain't going to have no life into them till the truth actually comes forth? Because all this wind and all this noise is serving a purpose. It is bringing some stuff together on one hand, and on the other, it is destroying some stuff. It's destroying what people have known. Either way you live now is you have to liberate from the lie and get to the truth. If you don't get there, then you die in the process. But if you do, then you live. So there's a lot of things that's going on in the natural as well as in the spiritual. And it's an interesting time, I know, for me to be living in. Apostle, you said something earlier reference to the age and not knowing. There was a point in my life when I actually looked at and studied Dr. King so closely to the point I felt like my mission in life was to pick up the baton and continue from where he was. That's how much I had studied him. And actually, and that still spills over into my being, my essence today. But you're right. That's not something you can give your children. That's not something you can give your spouse. That's not something you can give your neighbor. That's why we have to know no man after the flesh. When we encounter those spiritual minded individuals, we'll know each other after the spirit. And until then, we have to go forward, educating, motivating, and inspiring, rising to the occasion and trying to help others to do the same, because there's a lot of work to be done. That's why that question was asked: when he returned, would he find any faith
Mm.
or any faithful?
Yeah. The, the,
Go ahead,
the,
Apostle.
the noise is just a distraction. There is so much going on,
Mm-hmm.
and it is to deceive us.
Mhm.
It's put out there, meant to deceive most people. Most people are not paying attention to anything that's really going on. They're not paying attention to the fact that we're nearing the end. They can't see that we're in the last days. They are going forth just like in the time of Noah, just
Mhm.
like in this Sodom and Gomorrah. All of that is still just noise. It's just going on, and nobody is coming to. I'm not saying nobody as in nobody. Talking about the masses are not coming to the truth, are not coming to Christ, and not realizing what's really going on. And you can
Right.
teach it, you can preach it, you can stand on the rooftops, and they're still going to live their own life and keep on living and going on with whatever the noise is. The same thing with Thanksgiving, Christmas. Would you please look up this stuff? It is not of God. It's idolatry. Not only is it idolatry, these celebrations that we are celebrating are demonic celebrations. They celebrate demons on these certain days, and we get in line right along with them and celebrate that same old demon. I mean, there are 3 or 4 demons that and deities that are celebrated on these days. Christ was not born in December. What is wrong with you? Come to your senses and stop going along spending your money, even with Thanksgiving. What are you giving? Give thanks every day. You don't have to give no thanks and you don't have to have a turkey. You don't have to have this, that, and the other. I'm not doing absolutely nothing tomorrow. And Christmas is canceled.
Right.
So
Oh, Apostle, it has been so long since I had Christmas.
Oh, Lord.
It has been so long since I celebrated a birthday.
Oh,
I,
my
I
goodness.
don't do any of that. But and most people say, "Oh, that you must be this or you must be that." Yeah, I am. But anyway, but right here, this is a part of our problem. This is a teaching moment, and this is I call it a teaching moment because there's certain things that we could never really address until we have an example. Now, before I ask you to read Brother Brown's words, I want to point something out here. If we are going to be at the forefront, if we are going to lead people someplace, if you are leading a person someplace and they are with you, when during the civil rights movement, when they were on that bridge, there are stories about how they looked over and there was too much water and they couldn't swim. Forget that. No, he was young at that point, but most of the people there, it wasn't about the water, it was about the other side. So when it comes down to being and doing, we have to come there with the mindset and ignore the cost. It may cost us, but what we may gain far outweighs what it might cost us. Now, when we get in a position where we are going forward, we have to realize there are some people in our ranks that may break rank, because when the dogs came, I'm sure there was a lot of scattering and the smoke came and there were some people that may have gotten trampled and it wasn't by the guards or whatever. But my point is, when it comes down to doing something, we have to be one in our actions and one in our effort. If it costs us, I'd rather be deprived for making my desire known. I'd rather be unpopular for standing for the right thing than to somehow feel that I can be deceitful and get in a place where I can get what I want without somebody knowing it. It doesn't work like that. We ain't here to beg. We ain't here to steal. And we ain't even here to borrow. But we are here. So as we read Brother Brown's comment, because it's relevant, because I just touched on reparation. But listen to these words, and I want you all to really see this and think about it for a moment. Lady Antoinette, if you read that.
Yes, Brother Brown writes, had Kamala Harris signaled support for reparations ahead of the elections, with racism in America would have been political suicide.
What did Dr. King say? Our problem is we want to know, is it popular? Is it political? Or is it financially feasible? That's what Brother Brown just said.
Mm-hmm.
She asked the question, is it political? So because it wasn't political, she didn't. And think about this for a moment. The whole conversation concerning the black vote, the black man, the black vote, and you're going to avoid reparation? If she had at least mentioned that, then it would have been, at least she would have had the black vote. It's one thing to be a black woman and lose because you couldn't get the black man vote. But then to realize there was a topic as important as restoration and you backed away from it. I mean, think about it, Brother Brown. Think about it. Go ahead, Apostle.
She just decided she was black. We ain't even gonna go there. She every time she was elected in every other office, she was not black.
Well, I heard the commentaries. Hey, I heard the narratives. Lady Antoinette, if you read this is Brother Edgar.
Brother Edgar writes, people get mad and hate you for lying to them, but at the same time, those same people don't want to hear the truth. The term black people means can't see the light people, nor are willing to even look objectively at truth. Can't see the light people. Yeah, I read that.
Yeah.
Can't see the light people. Brother Edgar, now you know you had to do something with that one, Brother Edgar. Come on, bring that out for me, because I get what you're saying, but I don't want to misinterpret it, because is that saying black as in dark versus the light, or is that saying people in the dark versus people that are knowledgeable and in the light? I don't even want to touch that till you give me a little bit more with it. But he goes on. This is what he says. He says, Thanksgiving is a celebration of the mass slaughter of indigenous people to take over our land, and we celebrate with them. My people perish for lack of knowing. That is true, Brother Edgar. But how long have we been celebrating the 4th of July, which is whose Independence Day?
Mm-hmm.
So when we get knowledgeable on one thing, we need to make sure we start pressing that knowledge so we can apply it to every aspect of our lives.
Yep.
Because when we celebrate it, and then how many of us are actually celebrating both Juneteenth and the 4th of July?
They do.
Now that's totally ignorant. I'm going to use that word too. That's totally ignorant there, because if you're going to be enlightened enough that you're going to go for Juneteenth now and accept that, then you need to be abandoning something. And he goes on to say she would have lost 75% of the white vote. Brother Brown, don't you say nothing else. You worried about a white vote. You going to be black or white? Which one you going to be? You going to turn us in before we escape? Or are you going with us? Which one? You can't be both.
And we are
in the dark.
And we are neither. And we are neither.
I got you. Okay. Edgar says in the dark. I got you, Edgar. Thank you, sir. You know, and that's very important, because as people start to come into the light, and the people that are opposed are normally going to be those that are in darkness. If you look at light as being enlightened, wisdom, or knowledge, then those in the dark would have to be those in ignorance. And that doesn't imply a race thing, because there are some people that will oppose you that are exactly the same color as you. As a matter of fact, it can be somebody in your home. someone in your family, whatever the case may be. When it comes down to moving and standing for something, it ain't even carnal anymore. It's a spiritual thing. And if you look at it from that sense, you ain't expecting nobody to be there with you. Whoever shows up to your right or your left, you'll know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Brother Brown says we don't even know what pagan holidays are.
Are.
Yeah, okay. Well, Brother Brown, we may not
Not
know, but
we. Most people don't. But if you
no,
study, you know.
I
Yeah.
like the way Brother Brown, and Apostle, that's a good thing he just did, because when we say we are identifying the problem, not that y'all are the problem.
Yeah.
But when we use the term we, that puts
As a
us as a
people.
collective. And
Mm-hmm.
I often do that. And I see it as being a valuable thing when it comes to getting people to stand in one or respect what you're saying. Because the moment someone think you're talking down to them, that's when they have a problem. So that's my thing. I love to use the term we, except for Brother Brown, because he really going out on a limb here now. And Brother Brown says here that politics is a numbers game. You know what? I'm going to tell y'all made me look stupid. Let me tell you how. When I went to Africa and they were doing their elections, they actually won based on how much money they raised. It was known that whoever raised the most money would get the office. And I'm thinking to myself, man, that is so criminal. But then I look at this election here, really opened my eyes to it. It really wasn't about who had the most money, or it shouldn't have been. I still don't see how it could boil down to that unless they are having us vote and it don't count for nothing. But at the same time, if people are good at lying and they have this whole team of professional liars and they lie to us to get us to believe and accept what they want us to believe and accept, then yeah, I guess it would make sense about the amount of money. But my brother's right. It says politics is a numbers game. And Brother Brown, I don't particularly believe in politics. I have to respect it for what it is. But as far as placing my trust in it, my hope in it, I still stand on righteousness. And if politics opposes righteousness, then I don't get behind that, regardless of who's in office, black, white, green, or indifferent. I understand what you're saying. It is a number of games, but so is morality. But immorality is still immorality. If it's immoral, it's immoral, not because someone, as a matter of fact, if you look at the issue where we are now with President Obama and the things with the gay rights and all of that, you know, that's, I guess political people would say that's politically correct. But there comes a point where it's not about being political. Okay. So having said that, where were we? Okay. Lady Antoinette, I don't know where she went to.
I'm here. My camera's picture is just out.
Okay. All right. No problem. We'll let you stay in that mode. No problem. All right, then. Any additional comments before we move forward? I just love y'all contribution, Edgar and Brother Brown. Brother Brown and Brother Edgar, I'm going to extend this challenge to both of you. I have been desiring so much to go to my hometown. We do what's called a rise to no, a spiritual uprising. And what it is it's more or less exactly what we are kind of doing right now. You come up with a topic, you get you some guests, some panelists, and you go at the topic, and the whole intent is when it's done, something's going to be said that is going to educate, motivate, and inspire some individuals to rise above life situations and circumstances. It can be very provocative, and as far as the community goes. So you all are in my hometown. I would love to come back there with something like, if you can just commit to it and uh, was the saying, say, just agree with me, we can do it. Let me know. Let me know your thoughts on it. We don't even have to call it spiritual, right? We can call it whatever you want. The enlightenment, reawakening, whatever it is, as long as we get there. All right, so that was question number 4. Let me see what we have for question number 5. Lady Antoinette, are you in the room?
Yes, I am in the room.
Okay, then, if you could be so kind. Number 5 says, "How can I change the narrative in my community?" How see that's one way right there. I just extended to my brothers how much I would love to come back to my hometown, the one that I was born in, which is Utah, and which is less than 30 minutes from Tuscaloosa, the place where I graduated high school, and something like this. I mean, we can do it. We can do it. And Brother Brown says, "We'll do." All right, Brother Brown, I'm gonna hold you to that. All right. It says, "How can I change the narrative in my community?" Okay, we're gonna let Apostle go first with this now. Apostle has already kind of alluded to her answer. We're gonna see how consistent she is. How can you change the narrative in your community?
Speak up and speak out.
Speak up and speak out. All right, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to make a change. You have to first make that change in your own family.
Right.
But your family has a tendency to leave you.
Mm-hmm.
So my children are all gone. I have, matter of fact, now I only have one granddaughter and one great grandson that is living here. Well, I have Eddie's, my husband's family or whatever. His son lives in Harlem, and he's he's saved and going to a church in Grovetown. So he strives to change himself first. He's saved, so I mean he's changed himself first, and he's from Alabama. So, um, but you can't change. It's hard to change your family when you from a distance, and then they change other communities, not yours or not the one that you're living in. But that's why I said speak up and speak out. Get up. Just like this is a platform, there's always a platform and there's always a place to change people's minds and ideas about what's really going on. And even Facebook itself, send these messages out, get all you can get, and glean all you can glean. And not only glean it for yourself, but glean it for others. And try to help people to recognize what they've lost and what they need to do to gain it back.
I like that. Well said. Lady Antoinette, if you'll read Brother Edgar's statement before you
Okay.
answer.
Okay. Brother Edgar writes, "We trade our own intelligence for information and knowledge that comes from a system of education that comes from outside of ourselves and our community."
Okay, well said, Brother Edgar.
Mhm.
Let me
Yeah.
address that before you go, Lady Antoinette.
Mhm.
Brother Edgar, I don't know if you were in when the apostle was talking about community. When you look at our community, there was a point when we did have communities. Um, Even when we look at when we were coming up, there was some things that we had that aren't there now, and that are missing from some communities. And we didn't have everything that would truly qualify us as a community. But when you make the statement that we trade our intelligence for information and knowledge that comes from a system of education, that is along the lines of what we were saying earlier. Now that truth is coming forth and is even challenging the education systems and some of the things that we learned in the past, there are some people that are awakening. There's some truth that are coming forward and they are making themselves known. There are some people that are conscious enough that they aren't ignorant by choice. They're ignorant, as you're pointing out, because that's the way the system left them. So as we look at what's going on here, we have a chance to change that. You just gave us a narrative, and the Edgar Eason narrative is we trade our intelligence for information and knowledge that comes from a system of education that comes from outside ourselves and our community.
Mhm.
Well, if you look at Rise to Prosperity, there's some individuals that believe that they can educate, motivate, and inspire some individuals to rise above life situation and circumstances that those same systems have brought about. And I like the use of the term we, because I would use that same term, because we have to make a difference. If we're going to get beyond our situations and circumstances, it's going to take somebody that comes to the awareness and the knowledge of what you're saying, not just in a means of being able to verbalize it or write it, but to be able to challenge it, to walk it out, to show it. The thing I did earlier with Brother Brown's statement, we need to, that's not confrontational, that's educational. And when we get to the point where we can do that with each other, to each other, then we start to build a community. Because right now, a house divided against itself, so let's use a community. A community divided against itself cannot stand. We have some things that we need to correct in front of us, being the system, some things we need to correct behind us, being we ourselves who have been influenced by the system. And if we can rise to the occasion to do that, as we rise and move forward, we change some things so that those coming behind us, they'll have it that much less to work at, because we've started doing something. But if we just leave it as is, it's like a little leaven leavens the whole loaf. So we want
Mm.
to be the difference and make the difference. But I thank you for that comment. It's definitely a great conversation piece. All right, Lady Antoinette.
Okay. How can I change the narrative in my community? Well, I was talking or speaking with my husband the other day, and I said, most communities are non-existent today, especially here in the Atlanta area. They've been what they call regentrified, and even the areas where where it was predominantly Black, not anymore. Um, but I was thinking about at home in Tuscaloosa. I think most of the West Side is predominantly Black. So that you would find that community, the West Side of Tuscaloosa, that community would be what we would consider a community. It would in case the Glens, Lincoln Park, Stillman Hill, all of those areas, it would incorporate all of those areas. It has all the churches, the grocery store, the banks, even though they're not Black owned, they do have those there. And I thought about and I'm not sure, Edgar could probably attest to this, if Stacy's is still located, the convenience store is still located on, what is that, Calden Road? Is that Calden? Yeah. Because back when the area was, when back growing up, that store, now I don't know who owned it prior to the owner who bought it, and he's been in that neighborhood all these years. White owned, but he's been right there in our neighborhood all these years. I don't know who owned Floyd's, but they were in our neighborhood all those years. And I'm thinking that at a time when they came in, I don't even think I could even see where they would have allowed at that time for any uh, person of color to actually own a business in that area. The banks probably would not have heard of it. Um, but anyway, to change the narrative, I just have to say, piggyback off of Apostle, you know, speak out. Excuse me, speak out, and but you would have to actually have a community, which is rare these days.
Hmm.
So we can change the narrative by speaking out against those things we don't want, and praying that we're able to do for our own, instead of people coming in and making money off that trillion, making money off of us, because we like nice things as well. And a lot of that trillion is going to homes in areas that are protected, homes in areas, in gated areas, where it's just a whole, it's so big, it's really so big that that trillion is just, it's all over the place. It's all over the place. So my answer to that question would be to speak out, stand up against it and speak out.
Okay. I like that's a good answer. All of them are good answers. There's no one answer. And I think if we look at it from that perspective, if everybody asks themselves that question, then they'd be able to look at and see something that need doing, or identify something that need doing. And if we all had the mindset of making that change, then we could collectively make it happen. But as far as I go, I feel that I can make a change, change the narrative in my community by being present and addressing the things that I know to be true, impacting the things that I can, and emphasizing, as I always do, the serenity prayer. God grant me, in this case, us, the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It was put in the room earlier about we as a people perishing for a lack of knowledge.
Hmm.
Educating, motivating, and inspiring individuals to rise. Most people might think the rise, it just sounds like a brand, the little sign with the words on it. But in reality, a people that's downtrodden, what's the opposite of being downtrodden? How do you change that? You rise up. A people that has lost their hope, what do they have to do? They have to rise up. And if we can convince, move people to be in a state of perpetual moving, and I'm hoping I used that word correctly, they will be moving toward higher ground. They will be moving in a direction that when they look back the next time, they will see from whence they came, not from how long it's been this way. The biggest thing I would say is something that one of my heroes have said. He was asked, "What could I do to make a difference?" And his response was, "Agitate, agitate, and agitate." And as long as we're agitating, stirring the water, stirring the mix. We're mixing it up to the point where it ain't clear. Nobody gets to see this as being clear because it's not. So the way I can change the narrative is by being the change, by influencing the environment or the atmosphere in which I am a part of as best I can, as best I know how. All right.
Mhm.
Yes, Apostle.
Yes. If we go back to the Bible, go back to the word, it told the old women to teach the young women. It also told the older men to teach the younger men. We're not doing that anymore per se. That's why I'm saying we as a people are not um, are not training up or imparting things from the past into the younger generation. Even as far as cooking, there was a time when everybody came together and cooked. So the recipes went down from generation to generation. The young people would rather go to fast food and rather eat mess and junk than to sit down at a table and eat a meal. And my husband says, we got 2 tables in here and nobody sits at the table. So, occasionally we'll sit there and you sit there, they sit there with the phones or they sit there with the TV or, what I'm saying? It's not sitting at the table. It's not conversation. It's not um, the way we grew up. Everybody had to be at the table when they called, dinner time is 6 o'clock. Everybody got to be at the table. We got to say prayers. They don't even know any prayers. They can't even say. I know my brother, God bless his soul, he passed away. One Thanksgiving, he said, God bless this. God bless this food. God bless this mess. God bless something. And whatever he said, Mama, my brother was grown. Mama went off and gave him one of them knocks across the room and said, if you can't say grace the right way,
Mm.
and he was just, he just saying something that he got off the street or something. But we were grown at that time, and Mama still didn't take no mess. So, but everybody's not at the table. I mean, I understand it. I'm at the place where I don't want to be at the table. I don't want to fix the food. I don't want to do anything. So, but I will. But, I stopped cooking when the dog got more than we got. There was more leftovers and more food that went that went to the dog than. So what are you cooking for? I'm cooking for him and me, and half the time he don't want it, so you cook for yourself, and it still doesn't make much sense. Nobody
Well,
sits at the table.
well, I like the way you started off, Apostle. It was the absence of the people at the table being emphasized versus the meal. And when you
Mhm.
get to that point, because just like it was allowed to get to the point where they weren't at the table, it's going to take something like that to bring them back. And what you said ties into this statement here that my brother just shared. He says, right now in Tuscaloosa, one brother is alone protesting gun violence and is effectively opening eyes. Okay, I like that. Now, there's two things I see first with that he's alone, which is odd, and that he's opening eyes, because if he was opening eyes, then that number should be increasing. That says that maybe there's some people that are looking on that are not willing to get behind, though they might in their mind agree. If we don't stand for something, we'll fall for
Mm.
anything. And that kind of
Amen.
goes back to the issue my brother was saying about Kamala Harris. That's a certain mindset that's with that, because if we are concerned about the politics of it and the people that would see us and how it might impact us, can you imagine the Montgomery uh, Barcart when the people were arriving to work late because they refused to ride the bus, and the same white people knew that they didn't take the bus, but they were late for their job, but yet they did it to the point over a year. They
Mm.
put themselves in a position of how much it could have cost them. Until we get to the point when we're willing to sacrifice for something, do we really are we all right? What do we have next, Lady Antoinette?
Well, we've got our problem and solution.
Okay. Problem or solution? Is it racist to expect blacks should buy black? Is it racist to expect blacks should buy black or blacks to buy black? Is that racist? Is that racism?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, is racism for whites to think whites should buy white?
Why you think that's racism?
Because it is. It's just a form of racism.
No, it's their money. They spend it where they choose to spend it. You can't really call that racism. That's like saying they won't shop with us. That ain't the problem. But I get what you're saying though. But no, I don't think that that's racism. Um, I like your response on it though. Let me see what are they saying in the room, Lady Antoinette?
Well, okay, Brother Eason writes MLK formerly 32nd Avenue. Every business from CA Fred Technical College, Thomas Rib Shack, all the way down to Pruitt Service Station was all black businesses. Now the Arabs are the owners. There's a deliberate attempt to stagnate the prosperity of our people. Wow.
Brother Edgar, you need to be on this program, bro. You can't
Yeah.
defend that because you don't have a chance to type. But I would say to that that's not a threat to our prosperity. That is an confirmation of our stagnation, as you said. When we get to the point where we choose to have something different, we will do something different.
Mhm.
And the only way we bring about a change is we go about doing that. The same way those stores are there, it ain't like they're just there and they bought them and boarded them up. Who's frequenting them? And if we're the ones that frequenting them, that's where the problem comes in at. If we want some of those stores back or whatever the case may be, somebody may have a little property to the point where they open up something and start with maybe a few items. If it was deliberate, there ain't nothing in our communities that we cannot change. There ain't nothing in our community that we can't turn around. And Lady Antoinette, it's okay for those people to be there. Until they are replaced, there's a need that they supply. We have to eat, we have to whatever. So if we look at the fact of how they got there, that was our negligence. So if we look at the fact of wanting to change that, then that's going to have to be something that's going to be something we have to be deliberate about.
Mhm.
Welcome back, Apostle. Problem or solution? Brother Brown says wise political figures don't submit proposals to get them defeated. Brother Brown, I hope that's not your personal thought. Proposals that are never defeated does not stir up controversy. As a matter of fact, if you never submitted a proposal, I think you were just a little happy nigger. That's the way people may see us. We're happy. They're content. They're content with what they got. They're content with their size of the track. Just look at them. They sell out everything they have. Look at them. They inherit all this property and they sell it.
Hmm.
Is that what you're trying to tell me? And is there any wisdom in that? If you, it's like the water. As weak as water is, It changes the shores. It changes the boundaries. It changes the rocks because of its persistence. But if we are not persistent, when we have some people who know what persistence is, when that person dies out or that person is gone, who's going to be persistent then? Who's going to organize then? We need to be about business. And this thing about politics, it plays too great of a role. Politics is not my God. And if I was in a meeting where people bowed down to politics, they'd probably be wanting to put me out because I would make it known. That's where compromise comes in at. Politicians and politics is made to be changed, influenced. And we feel that we are that subject by it. Brother Brown says we must walk out of the slave mentality. Yeah, you're right. We sure do. Greetings, Pastor Mills, my pastor, my brother. Peace and blessings be unto you. Lady Antoinette, will you please share what he says with us?
Greetings, Pastor. Pastor Mims writes, racism is a belief that you possess something distinct, such as abilities or qualities that are inferior or superior to someone else. The issue is not racism. Black businesses often charge higher prices and not necessarily higher quality products in hopes that we will frequent them as opposed to buy something similar for lower prices.
All right. I like that.
Mhm.
And he says peace and blessings. And that is the truth. I'm going to share this little infomercial with you all. When I was in Augusta, I used to do a newspaper, The Rise, and people would always tell me that they didn't have any dollars to advertise with me. And I thought through this elaborate plan. It was called the Promotional Incentive Program. And it was something whereby businesses would agree to give the person's honor a little coupon that I had put out that was 10% off on whatever they purchased for shopping the Black business, which, as the pastor said, that would kind of cost them 10%, but what it would have cost them in the number of visitors, there's a difference. That's why other companies sell for less, because they know that they can get more customers. And eventually the thought process of not trying to be competitive pricing wise will become costly, as he's alluding to. But listen to this. Incentive Program, or R2PIP, a transformative initiative by On the Rise Network and Outreach. Together, we're building empowered communities, fostering collaboration, and driving sustainable economic prosperity for all. The heart of this innovative program is the R2PIP token, a versatile digital asset meticulously designed to reward participation, foster collaboration, and celebrate achievement in various fields. Whether you're attending an engaging workshop, striving to meet community goals, or contributing your valuable expertise in a professional setting, the R2PIP token serves as your key to unlocking a myriad of opportunities and pathways to prosperity, empowering you to thrive in a digital world. And here's the exciting part. You can get in early. Imagine being one of the first participants in a groundbreaking project. The R2PIP token presale is now live at just 1 cent per token. This is an unprecedented opportunity to be part of something big from the very beginning. This is your chance to join a movement that combines the power of community with cutting-edge blockchain technology. By participating, you are not just investing in a token, but in a vision for a more connected and innovative future. Don't miss this opportunity to be part of something bigger. Join a movement that is making a real difference in communities around the world. Visit otrcommunity.com today to learn more about the R2PIP program, the token presale, and the various initiatives we are launching. Discover how you can contribute to innovative projects and help create a brighter future for all. Your involvement can spark change and inspire others. Come, let us rise, let us prosper. Scan QR code, register on site, and purchase your R2PIP presale tokens between November 27th and December 31st. Now, this is something that has been in the works. You notice you haven't heard much about it until now because it's a saying that talk is cheap. But everything that this represents, we have literally said and we are saying now. In our communities, it's really about dollars and cents. And the world has taught us that with crypto, we are a people that's behind with it. Even Trump, when he ran for office, crypto went up 40 to 50%. I think it was like 40 because he mentioned being behind it. Now, this didn't start when he came into office. It started when I saw that around the world, if you look at the signs, there are some people that's seeking independence. And one way they are doing it, it pertains to economics. Our situation economically is one that we can control. Those trillions of dollars are real. What we do with them, that undecisiveness or that lack of direction or purpose in how we go about it, or maybe someone just hadn't said it loud enough or often enough. But we can make that difference. And I love the conversation that's going on here. It's what's necessary because if we're going to change things, it's on our financial front, it's on our spiritual front, it's on every aspect of our lives. And we can do it. All we have to do is just put our mind to and allow God to lead us and come together with resources because we have them. I'll be getting more into that on Friday, so I hope y'all would join me. But I wanted to share that because we've talked about our community as though it's hopeless, as though it just got that way. There are some things that can change it. I'm a firm believer that, barring what I just showed you all, God is doing something in this season. And because he's doing something in this season, we're either going to be a part of the problem or a part of the solution. I hope to be a part of the solution. And I'm hoping that this little bit, how can we change? Hopefully it's making a difference. So I want to thank you all for joining us. Lady Antoinette, do we have another question? Because we could wrap this up tonight and just come up with another subject next week.
Yes, we do, but we can, like you said, we had, oh no, that was it.
Okay, then we'll at this point give our Emmy moments. I want to thank you all for joining us. And as you all can see, when you come, be prepared because when you put something in that room there, this is Rise to Prosperity, where we're about educating, motivating, and inspiring. And in order to do that, it calls for communication. And this is the type of communication that we need. I was serious, Brother Brown, when I made mention of that, about that table. I think he put another comment in. Brother Brown says, like it or not, black reparation would get any national candidate automatically defeated. You first get elected, then you move. Brother Brown, I don't think it works quite like that because there's a whole lot of houses and people that get a vote in that versus it just happening. If you think about the thing with education and writing off all of that, there's been a lot of things that presidents can promise, but when they actually get in that seat, it's a different story. And if we actually, as a people, was more mindful of getting in touch with everybody that's involved at our local level to the president and somewhat of a concerted effort in all the states, we could probably get a lot more done. But until we are ready to communicate like that, and hopefully we will be, again, with technology, there's so much that is used against us that will actually work for us, but time will tell. Brother Ace Eason says, this land called America is our land originally. to accept the payment called reparation for something that we owe already is insanity. That we own already. I think that should be owned.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm not sure which one. But in
Yeah.
any case, I get what you're saying, Brother Edgar. It's not about who owns the land, it's about the work and the wealth.
Mhm.
Whether we owned it or not is irrelevant. The wealth that you now um, see a lot of people enjoy came about as a result of whether we came from Africa to do it or we were already here or not. It's the same labor that resulted in that wealth. So reparation addresses that wealth issue in a roundabout way. So uh, we're about to do our Emmy moments, and again, I want to thank you all for this wonderful input, and I look forward to you all next Wednesday. And I would encourage you all to join me on Friday as well. Um, get in touch with me in advance, any of you, and I'll be glad to have you on as a guest. It's an hour versus 2 hours, but we try to get just as deep, if not deeper. Okay. Our Emmy moments. Are you ready, Apostle? Unmute yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
Miami moment would be each one teach one, each one educate one, each one motivate and inspire one. We can do it one at a time, and as we motivate, as we educate, motivate and inspire, let the person, that's like the one they talk about when they pass it on.
Hmm.
Um and if I've given it to you, then you give it to somebody else. Whatever I'm able to speak into your life and inspire you or motivate you, then you inspire and motivate someone else.
Yes, I like that. Okay. Lady Antoinette, when you get ready to close, remember to mention the December 14th event and whatever details you leave out, I'll fill in for you. But my Emmy moment is this. You know, we talk about a topic that's very important, the narrative. And like living your life, you are empowering people to give their words during your obituary, at the reading of it, and in addition to when they speak as it pertains to how you live your life. But more importantly, if we want to live our lives with a sense of contentment, I know for me, I have to be content with those things around me. They may not be right, but if I know that I am standing in the right place to oppose them, or I am doing what I can to change them, it gives me a sense of accomplishment. And in another roundabout way, it gives me peace. So I would encourage you all as you live your life, always look for a cause, a reason, because a person that won't stand for something will fall for anything. And even Marvin Gaye said that, you know, this life, this ain't living. And if we do want to get to the point where we are living, we need to have something to live for. I would encourage you all to remember, have the serenity to accept the things you cannot change, the courage to change the things you can, and that may happen in the form of agitating. Be the agitation for those who are in decision making positions, and give me the wisdom to know the difference. Until next time, peace and blessings. Lady Antoinette, your program.
Okay, we would like to thank our panelists this evening, Apostle Crystal Harris and my husband and co host, Minister Jamie Eatman. We thank you for being with us and we thank you for your input. Also, those of you in our conversation room, let me get over here right quick. Okay, we had our classmate, Brother Edgar Eason. Thank you so much for your input. Brother Jerry Brown, we thank you as well. Pastor Wayne Mims, thank you for being in our conversation room. We also had our sister, Tracy Eatman, and okay, I think that was it. Apostle was in the conversation room and then she later joined us. But I would like to thank each of you personally and let you know that it was a blessing that you were with us this evening. And we invite you to come back on next Wednesday for another round of Rise to Prosperity. I want to remind everybody that on Friday evenings is OTR Movement, which is hosted by my husband, Minister Jamie Eatman, and that's 8 o'clock every Friday evening, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Let's see. Any other comments before we close? Anyone? That's it.
The St. Mark,
St. Mark. Oh,
December.
you go ahead with that.
All right, everyone. I would like to invite you all out. Those who are in this area, and Apostle, if you all aren't doing anything, St. Mark is doing the event on December 14th. As you know, I'm like you. I'm not even really into Christmas, but we have some things that we have to overcome. And one of the ways we're doing that is through a celebration, holiday celebration. It'll be feature performances by St. Mark. St. Mark doesn't really have a choir, but our sister church does. Performances by Lady Antoinette Eatman. And I saw some beautiful young ladies that danced at our sister church, Shiloh. And if they are up to the task, maybe they might even perform for us. And some bit of a fashion show. We're doing this to bless St. Mark, and we're going to trust that the Lord is going to bless us. So we ask you all to come out and be a blessing. And prior to that, we will also share the Cash App. So if you can't make it, you can still be a blessing to St. Mark. All right.
Mm-hmm. All right. With that being said, beloved, it is our hope that you prosper and be in good health as you rise above your situation and circumstance. Peace and blessings be unto everyone.
Peace, you all.